Hey everyone, welcome to the Dram Amateur Podcast, your go-to show for everything bourbon, whiskey, rum, tequila, mezcal, and beyond. I'm your host, Jason. Join me as I journey and explore the world of alcoholic spirits. Let's get started. Welcome to the Dram Amateur Podcast. Thank you all so much for listening. I certainly appreciate it. Man, how about that song to get us started today? That song is named Tequila, obviously. That is sung by the Champs. So that song was actually released in 1958. It's a Latin-inspired surf instrumental song. And it was pretty popular back in the day. It was actually became a number one hit on both the pop and R&B charts at the same time as its release. And it's been pretty famous in pop culture today, specifically Pee-wee's Big Adventure, man. Come on. Like when he goes and loses his bike and he's trying to find his bike, he goes into the biker bar. Right? If you guys remember, there was all the motorcycles lined up and everybody was kind of picking on him. And he put this song on the jukebox, put his platform white shoes on, got up in the bar and danced the famous Pee Wee Herman dance and danced to this song Tequila. And everybody, of course, at the bar at the same time when it was time, everyone yells Tequila, which is fantastic. So, hey, if you don't know, we're talking about tequila today. I'm pretty excited. I've got a lot of episodes lined up about tequila coming up. I've got some information about sustainability in tequila, which I thought was pretty interesting. I'm going to talk about in a future episode terroir and tequila. I think that's a really interesting episode as well. There's a lot of information there, so it might actually be a two-parter. But today, we're going to be talking about tequila production. So from agave to the bottle, right? What does that actually mean for tequila? And how is it done? We're going to talk about harvesting, milling, fermentation, distillation, all of those fun things that makes tequila an amazing pour. On top of that too, if you listen to one of my past episodes, you learn a little bit more about tequila. But tequila is one of like the biggest rising spirits right now, or liquor in the entire world. Bourbon's taking a downfall. Rum's kind of staying flat, but tequila is absolutely skyrocketing. Go step into your local Total Wine, and you'll see that. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I personally think that might be a little bit of a bad thing. But that's a different topic for a different day, and that might end up being a different episode. But I'll share with you a past experience this last week, or just recently, I should say. I went into a Total Wine with my friend Jordan, my friend Michael Pints, Pipes, and Drams on Instagram. And after lunch, we stopped in and we went. And of course, we looked at the bourbon aisle, and it's all the standard stuff you find at Total Wine nowadays. And then we ended up going, I looked at the rum aisle. I will tell you something right now. The rum aisle at the Total Wine I used to go to is huge. It has completely shrunk down to nothing. It used to be almost one whole aisle on one whole side at Total Wine near me. It is completely shrunk down to like 5 bays of product, and that's it. In my opinion, that sucks. I don't know if that's good for rum. I don't know what that means for rum, but for today, we're going to just assume everything's okay. As long as I still have my people I get my rum from, I have, when I travel a lot, I look for rum. I have my one person, Max over at, Ritesh over at Max's Bottle Shop in Johns Creek. Definitely go see him if you need any rum. But those are that's like my main place I go find rum. So, always have your person that understands your palate and finds those little cool things for you. But yeah, rum was really decreased shelf space wise, whereas tequila was huge. They completely expanded the tequila section at Total Wine. I will tell you that I'm not too happy about that, because with that then comes the oversaturation of all the tequila that's there, right? And not all tequila is made equally. Guys, let's all make sure that we understand this. Much like rum, there are no laws that govern tequila, okay? What that means is that the tequila that you drink could have additives in it. That means that your tequila should not taste like cotton candy. It shouldn't taste like vanilla syrup. It shouldn't taste like something that is not tequila, not agave. So with that oversaturation of the market, there are a lot of bottles sitting on the shelf at Total Wine. You need to be looking for additive-free tequilas. You need to be looking for the ones that are produced from known distilleries that know what they're doing, that have a history of producing quality tequila. Casamigos is not it. 818 is not it. Many other brands are not it. And when you walk through the tequila section at Total Wine, there is a lot of bottles of tequila from brands I have never heard before. Now, I'm not saying that they have additives. I will say that tequila is one of the easier go-to-market liquors that exists, because you can easily go ahead and distill tequila. As soon as it's done distilling, you can bottle it and then ship it out. There's no aging process like bourbon or some rums are aged as well. But I will share with you that there are many corners that are cut to producing a bottle of tequila at times. Those corners are young agave that are not ripe, that should not be picked to be made in tequila. That means additives are added in tequila, and therefore you're not getting a natural tequila product, an additive-free tequila product. I will also share with you, even if it says organic, that does not mean that there are no additives in that. You need to look at verified additive-free from Tequila Matchmaker. Go download the app, look for the website. It's fantastic. Or reach out to me. Future episode might be some of my favorite additive-free brands. So I kind of get you into that. But I want to teach you a little bit more about the spirit first, or the product first, so that you understand it. We talked a little bit before about the differences and similarities between tequila and mezcal. And in this episode, I want to talk to you about tequila production. Before we go jump into that, I do want to tell you we have a new segment. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So if you remember last year, we started doing the Dram Digest. I think it was the Dram Digest. I don't remember what it was. I'm pretty sure it was. Have to go look back and look at my show notes. You guys all realize that sometimes I'm a little disorganized and I don't remember what the hell what the hell I've done before. I remember there was either a drinking digest or a daily digest or a Dram Digest. I'm going with Dram Digest. We now have a new segment on the podcast. Every single podcast from episode whatever this is going forward, you will be introduced to the Dram Digest, where I will go over for you what I've been drinking since the last, or some of the bottles, not every bottle, depends on how much I'm drinking. I'll go over some of the bottles I've been drinking with you since the last episode. All right. Let's jump into tequila production. Let's talk about what it means with tequila production. And let's go ahead and make sure that you guys have a little bit continued education on tequila. So with that said, let's talk about agave to bottle. So the production of tequila, it's a complex process, right? Involves several steps. You got to obviously plant the tequila, grow the tequila, harvest the tequila. Jesus, this has been a long day. Sorry. Let's take a step back there. You're not actually planting tequila. You're not going to putting a bottle of tequila in the ground and hoping that it grows and then harvesting it. No. Sorry. You have to obviously plant agave. You have to let the agave grow and mature to a proper age that is then making sure that you have a quality agave plant to harvest. And then you're harvesting that tequila. That agave, man, it's been a long Monday. You're harvesting that agave. You're then preparing that agave and then you're done processing it, and then you're distilling it, fermenting it, and you're making tequila. So that means that you have to, first of all, go out, find the agave, right? So to produce a tequila, good tequila, agave plants are harvested and their leaves are removed. So if you've ever seen an agave plant, it's this big plant. Some of them can be huge, right? And you have to harvest the leaves off the side of the plant. And then when you do that, you're left with what's called the core of the agave, or the pia. All right. Then what happens is you take the pia, you truck it over to your distillery, and then you go ahead and you cook the pia to break down the complex carbohydrates into simple sugars, which will then be later fermented and distilled. There are two main methods for cooking pia. You can either use a traditional brick oven, or you can use like a modern autoclave. I know that different brands and different distilleries do things in different ways. So brick ovens are more of the traditional side of the process, and result in like more of a smokier flavor, where autoclaves are more faster, more efficient. So if you think about sustainability, maybe in tequila making, you might see more autoclaves to cook the tequila. So once the tequila, to cook the agave, I'm going to say tequila 19 times in here when I should be saying agave. You guys are going to have to give me a free pass. It has been a long Monday. I apologize. We're going to get through this together. Promise you. Next, you're going to, and I have tequila in the brain. There's literally 2 bottles of tequila sitting right beside me. I've had tequila quite a bit recently, so I've got a lot of tequila in the brain. So next, after the agave is cooked, you then move into milling and fermentation of the agave. So once the pia is cooked, or the core of the agave, which is the pia, is cooked, they are then crushed to extract the juice, and then they're fermented using yeast to convert sugars into alcohol. A lot of similar other spirits do the same thing. So nothing really too complex in that process. Fermentation can take anywhere from a few days to a few weeks. But that all depends on what the distiller wants, or the master distiller wants, in their desired flavor profile, right? So the fermentation time frame will take, obviously, and produce different flavors that come out of the tequila. So you're targeting a certain profile, and then you're obviously fermenting for that long to make sure that your profile is uniform across all of your brand. There are several factors that can influence fermentation process. Some of those factors are like the type of yeast that's used, the temperature, the humidity of the air outside, the environment that's around it, and presence of other microorganisms that might get in, especially if you're doing like open air fermentation, for example. You're using a yeast. The air has microorganisms in it as well, and then that could add into the final product that you come up with, or that's produced. Next, what's going to happen is once that agave, that pia, is milled and it's fermented, so it's crushed, all the juices are extracted, you're fermenting it, you're going into the distillation process, right? The distillation process could also mean aging as well. Again, if you reflect back on my previous episodes, aging of tequila, and then what's the terminology that goes with that has different things. So, for example, just to remind you, silver or blanco tequila is aged no more than 2 months. So most of the time your blancos are produced, bottled, and shipped. If they do age them, I don't want to say they're aging them. I hear the term rested a lot. So it's a rested blanco. So your blanco would then be taken off the still production, rested in a barrel, and then it spends no more than 2 months in that barrel, and then it has to be bottled still as a blanco. If you get to a reposado, so just to remind you, if you get to a reposado, you're being aged for 2 months to 12 months in oak barrels. That definitely impacts the color, the flavor, right? Because you're getting that barrel influence from it. So if you want a reposado, you're going to be aging it from 2 to 12 months. Your añejos are aged for 1 to 3 years in oak barrels. You're going to get a lot more complexity to that, more of that barrel influence complexity on it. I will say that if you are new to tequila, I would suggest starting with an añejo or an extra añejo if you're moving over from bourbon, because you get a lot of those similar flavor profiles like your vanilla, your caramel, your butterscotch, etc. Plus you get some of the agave influence. I'm not a big fan of añejos. I have moved on to enjoy more of the true agave flavor, so that's why I like the blancos or still strength blancos and the reposados, because the reposados do have a little bit of that barrel influence, but you still get a lot of the agave influence as well. And I think it's more unique. But if I started out with an añejo or an extra añejo, so I've been down that road and I know what it's like. Definitely a good place to start if you're moving from bourbon or a darker liquor to tequila. And then extra añejo is aged for 3 years or more, and it gives it a much more smoother and enjoyable experience. I don't really understand the smoother piece of that. I have blancos that are 80 proof that are extremely smooth. I have blancos that are still strength that are 100 something proof, and they've got a little kick to them, right? But at the same time, they're very approachable. Especially like over a big ball of ice or something like that. It's very, very easy to get into. So age, that's the aging part of the distillation process. So tequila is distilled separate to the alcohol to separate the alcohol from the water and other impurities. So the resulting liquid, known as ordinario, is then distilled again to increase its alcohol content and refine its flavor. And then again, as you get into the aging process, you have the blanco, the reposado, the añejo, and the extra añejo. And then that way, you get different influences in your final product. So I've been told, or I have people that think that there's a complex flavor more in the aging, and it makes it smoother. Again, I have found that quality tequila is pretty smooth. With the complex flavors, I think it all depends on your palate. I like still strength blancos the most because I think it has the most complexity of flavor, where depending on the añejo or the extra añejo and the brand, that complexity can be lost and you're getting more of the barrel influence. So you get more just barrel influence and you lose some of the agave. So take it for what it is. I find some of the añejos and extra añejos have a tobacco and cigar influence on them. Little bit of leather as well. I get some of that on it too. I remember my first pour of my first tequila was just over a couple years ago now, and it was at a restaurant in Syracuse, and it was a pour of Jose Cuervo, the De La Familia pour, which is their higher end product, and it was really good, and it was very tobacco and leathery to me, which I really like. So as a bourbon drinker, I was like, this is really good, and I really appreciate it. So obviously then once your product is distilled or once it's aged and you're ready to go through the process of bottling, you have then bottling and quality control measures that then help to get your product to market. So once the tequila has been aged to perfection, whatever that perfection is for whatever they're looking for, it's bottled and shipped to distributors and retailers around the world. I will tell you this, that a lot of the tequila that I find is not, a lot of the tequila that's available to us in the US is not necessarily available in Mexico. And I'm going to talk just specifically from myself and from my experience. I'm just going to share my experience, and I've talked about this a little bit before, about the availability of it in Mexico City. So I don't know how true this story is, and I really need to ask more about it. I need to talk to like an influencer that knows a little bit more, or actually somebody that actually produces it to understand it more. I was told, so when I first went to Mexico and knew about tequila and flew into Mexico City, I was super excited because I would have all this, I thought I'd have all this access to all this tequila that was close, right? Now it's even mezcal, right? Like I want to experience more and more mezcal as well. Let's focus on tequila. When I sat down at the bar and looked at the tequila list, there was not much. A lot of it was your Don Julio, Jose Cuervo, the bigger brands. And the only one that I can actually find in Mexico City that for me is additive free and I want to drink is Siete Leguas. I have a deep, deep love for Siete Leguas. I really love the Blanco. And in Mexico City, they serve, from everything I've experienced, if you get a pour of Siete Leguas, you get it with sangrita, which is like a tomato and citrus based drink, or like chase, like I don't want to say a shooter or a chaser, but you take a sip of the tequila and then you take a sip of the sangrita, take a sip of the tequila, a sip of the sangrita, right? You don't shoot it or anything like that. And that's the way you drink it. I've been to many different restaurants, tried many. My favorite is one that has like pieces of garlic and cilantro and onion in it. And I actually made some myself and it turned out absolutely fantastic. I absolutely loved it. And I really, really enjoy it. So going back to where we were, that's a lot of the tequila that's made in Mexico, I'm learning, is distributed to the US because there's laws in Mexico that govern them from being able to sell them in certain areas. I really need to learn more about that. I think it would be an interesting episode because I'll tell you, the product, the quality that comes out of Mexico is fantastic. Tequila, and it's really great. And I hate to see, I don't want to say it ruined, but I hate to see it impacted where it can't be sold locally so that local consumers can appreciate it. So during bottling process, there's quality control measures in place to ensure that each bottle meets the highest standards of taste and quality, right? That could include taste testing. That quality could include visual inspections. It could include a chemical analysis. All those factors. While there's many different factors that influence the flavor and quality of tequila, the terroir, which I'm going to talk about most, is perhaps one of the most important. I think going back to the bottling and quality topic, right? Because quality and the terroir and all of that is different, and I want to talk about that in another episode. But for example, I have really appreciated the methods and the processes of bottling that I've seen at several of the distilleries. I'll talk about one. So Fortaleza, for example, I think, if I believe correctly, the glass is all handmade. I might be wrong by that, and if I am, I apologize. But I will tell you, I have seen the bottles being labeled. Every bottle is hand labeled. The toppers, which are little agaves or little pias without the leaves on them. So it's the agave without the leaves, so it's the pia. They're all handmade and hand painted and everything as well, which is it's pretty crazy and pretty unique. It makes me want to keep every bottle and topper that I have of Fortaleza. And a lot of the other brands are like that too. They're not mass produced. They're not sent through these machines to the machines label them, bottle them, and all that stuff. It's all done via hand, so it's just really, really cool. I like that I'm drinking a product that can positively impact somebody else's life because of the passion and the effort that they put into that. I also appreciate that sometimes my labels are crooked, they're off center. That adds into the authenticity of what you are drinking. So not only did somebody put in their blood, sweat, and tears to harvest the agave, trim the agave, process the agave, and then obviously ferment it, distill it, and make a quality product. But then the people that are actually taking that finished product and putting it in the bottles and then preparing the bottles for sale, I'm positively impacting their future because they have a job, they have a passion for what they're doing, and that's pretty much pretty cool, right? I love that. I love that hands-on piece of it. And if you reflect back to my other episode this year where we talked about grain to glass bourbon, right? Grain to glass distilleries and the bourbon that has been making, same thing, right? You're harvesting a product, you're distilling that, you're preparing that product, you're then distilling that product, you're fermenting it, you're preparing it, you're aging it, and then you're bottling it. That's pretty cool. So I think I think it's pretty neat. A little in-depth overview of tequila, right? It is definitely an iconic Mexican spirit. I think it's really interesting how they do this, and I'm excited for more of the product to keep coming out. I'm excited for new things from current distilleries, new distilleries, whatever pops up. But I definitely think it is one liquor that, as I mentioned before, is completely growing and exploding in popularity. I'm really curious that, I got on the back end of the bourbon boom, and I've seen more of the decline now than I've seen the uptick. But I foresee that tequila in the next 10 years is going to go through this massive uptick as well. I'm a little concerned about what that's going to do for the market. But I'm also excited about the opportunity that brings for us as a consumer and to the people in Mexico that are producing such a quality product. I think it's fantastic. So, all right, that's it up for this topic. Let's jump into our next segment. Here we go. Now it's time for the Dram Digest. Here's a quick pour of what's been in my glass since the last episode. New finds, old favorites, and everything in between. Let's dive in. All right, let's talk about the Dram Digest. All right, let's see. So what have I been drinking recently? So I will share with you that it has definitely started to, I don't want to say cool off in Georgia. We've had some cooler days. It has still been hot as hell, but I am definitely going through a change. You guys all know that I'm not going to not drink tequila or mezcal in the winter, but tequila is more of a summer drink for me, spring, summer, and fall. More summer than either of the two, so I will still pour a bottle of it or a glass of it. I'll still have a mixed drink with it. But man, I've already noticed myself changing and focusing and moving more to bourbon, rye, and rum, those darker liquors. I'm definitely moving in that direction. To kind of just talk about where I've been as far as tequila goes, let's talk about that since this is a tequila episode. Let's talk about what I have been drinking. Michael Pints, Pipes, and Drams got me a pour of the Arete Reposado. Great pour. Don't know the price on the bottle or anything like that, but great pour. Really enjoyed it. Thought it was a quality product. Definitely peppery. I remember it being very peppery. Agave forward, get a little bit of the barrel influence, a little citrus, very peppery. I like that pepper kick to it, the black pepper kick to it. I think it's really good. So that was a really good pour. I also have two other pours that I keep going back to all the time lately, and I don't know why, but I am. I have an El Tesoro Reposado. It's a single barrel Reposado. This was a handpicked by La Atena. I hope I say that right. By Big C Liquors in Florida. This is let's see. So this is a single barrel. This is aged in ex-bourbon barrels, aged for 9 months. So think about what we talked about to make it a reposado. It has to be anywhere from 2 months to past 2 months to 12 months. So this one was aged for 9 months in an ex-bourbon barrel. Cool little fact, this is bottle 240 of 240, which is kind of unique. It was like the last pour that they got out of it. And this is 40% ABV. 40.7% alcohol by volume. So really good. I really like this, really flavorful. El Tesoro product is really, really good. I've really enjoyed it myself. So it says here on the back, our single barrel reposado bottlings are the product of one cask, specially hand selected at peak maturity, when the subtle sweetness of the ex-bourbon barrel and the smoky essence of agave combine to make a perfect spirit. So really cool. Really like this. This is out of NAM 1139. So I will share with you too. I don't know if I've mentioned this before. Every distillery has a NAM associated to it, which is like the number that is then provided to the distillery. So this is produced at a NAM 1139. Really good product, really good stuff. Really enjoy it. My second one is so this is a bottle that I had purchased myself, and I just got a backup of, which I really, really like. And this is a single barrel Tequila Ocho. So this is a Añejo from NAM 1474. So it was made, the agave was harvested in 2018. The age of the agave, or the barreling of this, was 12 months and 10 days. So just over the limit to call it a tequila or an añejo. I'm sorry. The thing I like about this is, and a lot of the añejos I've had are proofed down, and I feel like you lose a lot of the flavor from that. I think I appreciate about this is, first of all, it's Tequila Ocho, which I love Tequila Ocho. If you guys ever need a bottle of tequila to make mixed drinks, or as lower priced entry bottle to get into the market, Siete Leguas is one. Tequila Ocho Blanco, or the Plata, is obviously another one as well. It's fantastic. This one is proofed higher. So this añejo is 52.7% ABV, so alcohol by volume. Barrel number 12, which, man, I love. That's one of my favorite numbers. And then bottle number 93, which is great. This is, like I said, out of NAM 1474. And on the back, so this is a single estate, single barrel. So single estate means that all the agaves used to create this tequila have been grown and cared for by the Camarena family, and have come from one single ranch, Rancho El Bajo. Let me see. Bajío, Bajio, Bajío. The single barrel chosen was previously used once for American whiskey, and then for a number of tequila fillings before this aging. This pale tequila displays very little oak considering its long time in the barrel. It is complex and balanced despite its high proof. It's 100% pure agave tequila made slowly and carefully with no additives used. And man, that right there, that's awesome. That transparency is fantastic. So cheers to you, Tequila Ocho in this bottle. So this bottle's half gone, and I have a backup, which is great because I don't see these, man. I do not see these anywhere from where in the state of Georgia. So obviously, if I ever see one of these, I'm going to grab them, especially if they're going to be another barrel number. Now that I have barrel 12, I have 2 of them. Definitely going to buy them if I ever see them. And then to jump into outside of the tequila range, more of what I have been drinking, definitely Wild Turkey 101. I think I've almost finished off my bottle of Wild Turkey 101. I had a pour of that recently. I jumped back into my Chattanooga whiskey single barrel picks. If you guys look recently, or actually not recently, I commented on somebody's post recently, but they did a pick back here in the state of Georgia. A couple liquor stores got together and did a pick, and they put Deion Sanders on the front and on the back on the sticker. So they did 2 barrel picks. One was called the wife, one was called the girlfriend, and it had Deion Sanders in like the in the Braves uniform and then the Falcons uniform. It's probably one of the best stickers I've ever seen in the bourbon game ever, and it's fantastic. So I had a pour of that, which I hadn't had in a while. It's been open. It was in my liquor cabinet. I grabbed it tonight. Man, it was so freaking good. I really, really enjoyed it. And then last night I tapped into my Jack 10, man. It was really good. I really liked it. I really continue to like it. The bottle's about a third gone already. A really approachable pour, 97 proof. I wanted something lower proof. I could have went for a single barrel strength. But definitely needed something a little bit more approachable. It was late at night. I didn't want to get too hard into it. So definitely appreciated the Jack 10. It was really, really good. So man, you guys know Jack Daniel's is like one of my favorite distilleries, which is great. I also made a trade, a couple bottles. So in any world of liquor, there's trades that happen, right? If somebody has a bottle and I have a bottle, we make a trade. I think that's what helps us get to different product we might not find in different places. I travel, right? So I can bring bottles back home, stuff that people may not see, which then attracts them. And then they might have a bottle that I can't find because it's allocated. So we make a trade. I traded a Calumet 16 that I had. I hadn't opened it. I've never had it before. I don't have a backup. It's fine. And I traded it more because the person was looking for it and they were offering a bottle that I really wanted, probably more. So I traded a Calumet 16 for a Old Forester single barrel strength rye, which I only have one bottle of right now. This one is 132 proof from Warehouse K Floor 7. I mean, dude, like, come on, man. I mean, that high of a tier and that high of a proof. You guys know me. Like, I like my Old Forester single barrel strengths. Not as much as my Jack Daniel's ones, but very on par, right? So definitely something that I was excited to have. So made that trade recently as well. I haven't cracked it yet. I may not, to be honest with you, because I don't want to say I'm trying to limit the bottles I open. I will open a bottle for anybody that comes over. If they're like, I want to try that and it's sealed, I will open it. But I'm trying to get through my shelf or my cabinet downstairs, drink as much of that as possible. I have some bottles that are really, really close to empty, and I want to get rid of them. So I'm going to move those, try to get rid of those bottles, move bottles from my liquor shelf upstairs down there so I can kind of start cycling things because I have a lot of things on the floor right now. So I'm going to try to finish off some older bottles. So anyways, that's enough of me rambling. But that's about it, man. That's it for this episode of the Dram Amateur Podcast. I hope you like the format. I'm trying different things. I'm really starting to get a little gutsy with this. I really want to try new things. I want to have guests on. I'm trying to line up guests. Scheduling has been kind of hard, and I think it's been difficult. I have software to do everything virtually too. So I have friends that live across the state of Georgia, right? So I even want to start to do that. I just want to have guests just to shoot the shit and drink and hang out with. And I think I need to start asking more people. I've got 2 guests lined up, not scheduled yet, but lined up. I want to start having more as well. I want to also start even talking about different things. So like, for example, Smokin' Sounds is a podcast that I follow. Go follow them on Instagram at Smokin' Sounds. Is it at Smokin' Sounds Pod or is it at Smokin' Sounds? Man, look at me, unprepared, winging it from the hip. I mean, come on, man. You can't get any more crazier than that. At Smokin' Sounds Pod. Great guys, really supportive of my channel. And I think that's the one thing I love about this podcast community that I have really kind of resonated with is that we are one whole community. I don't care if my content's different than somebody else's content. They are still very supportive. I don't care if our content's similar. They are still or like. They are still very supportive. I'm really looking to lean on a little bit more of that across the industry. Hopefully, I start to be able to do that with some contacts, and we'll start to do that. And then hopefully, we'll start to have some guests so that you obviously don't have to hear my voice the entire time. You get to hear somebody else. But shout out to Smokin' Sounds Pod. They just did a cool concept recently where they went live on Instagram to record their podcast, which I thought was really, really cool. Really unique. And it was a good timing for me. I was just getting off of work. I was able to join and listen in. So watching them record a podcast from the Car Hole Lounge where they do it, and then publishing that podcast and getting to interact with them. That was really, really cool. I really, really like that. So something unique, something that I don't think I'm yet prepared for, to put my ugly mug on a video, maybe sometime soon. But yeah, check it out. Additionally, too, listen, if you have people that listen to podcasts and they don't have Spotify or Apple or one of the other places you get podcasts, I am now available on YouTube. Please, please, please send everybody to YouTube that does not have a subscription service and does not have access to podcasts. All my podcasts are there. No video, just the audio. But you know what? It gives people access to my content, and my goal is to help to introduce people to different spirits, talk about different things, talk about different liquors, and then that way maybe I start to expand their palate, and get them into something different that they haven't gotten into yet. So if I introduce you to one new thing that you haven't tried before and you get inquisitive from it from listening to my podcast, then I've done my job as an influencer one and as a podcaster too. So, all right. So thanks guys all so much for listening. That'll about wrap up this episode of the Dram Amateur Podcast. If you don't already follow me on Instagram, please do did I just do that again? Yeah, it is at. Oh my God. This is the second episode in a row that I've screwed this up. At Dram_amateur. You can find me on Instagram. Reach out, interact with me. Interested in being on the show? Man, talk to me. Send me a ping. I'd love to have you on. I'd love to brainstorm an idea. What do you want to come on and talk about? What do you want to promote? What do you want to share, right? If you have stories about things, I think that would be awesome to share. So definitely excited to potentially, interact with you and have you on. But shout out to you guys. Thanks so much for listening. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of your week. We'll talk soon. Thank you for tuning into the Dram Amateur Podcast. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of spirits. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. I certainly appreciate all the feedback and support. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes as we continue our exploration of bourbon, whiskey, rum, tequila, mezcal, and beyond. Cheers, and until next time, keep savoring every sip.